All right, kids, you knew this was coming. So I couldn't wait to do this. I can't bring Half-Life to any of you. So I'm bringing you guys to Half-Life. So let's take a quick turnaround. And this is the world I'm in right now. Now you'll notice basically everybody's on quarantine. And so it's pretty much the same as real life. Except this one's ran by a narcissistic dictator. Okay, wait, it's exactly the same as our real life. But of course I have an old radio here. It's pretty fun to play with. And I got a can, which I can throw out there, because that's gravity. In fact, this whole game has a physics engine, which is pretty incredible. Let's change the style. Maybe we get a new station in. And, if you want to water plants or something, well, we can do that. Here's my fingers. Isn't that cool? And you knew it was coming. Okay. So, you know what? We don't need tape. Let's get rid of this. Virtual beer. It's not the best. Let's get rid of that. And how about we step into my laboratory, where safety is #1 priority. So, you guys were left with this question. For taking the limit of this guy here. And I also noticed that a lot of you use this H notation. Don't know where you got that from, because I certainly didn't teach that. Oh well, that's okay. I don't mind. So let's look at the solution for this. So first of all, I apply the limit notation to this. And so f of x plus h minus f of x over h, right? So we plug in, anywhere we see x, we plug in x plus h. So 4 over x plus h. In fact, let's get a little pointer, huh? So 4 over x plus h minus the original function. Here's the original function over h. Okay, here we are. Now, I already skipped to the next step. You know that we have to combine, well, we got to figure out a way to shorten this thing up and combine things. So I multiplied the left side by square root of x over square root of x, and the right side by square root of x plus h over square root of x plus h. So if I multiply that through, 4 times square root of x, well, that's going to give you 4 square root of x. I'm going to combine these. Now, because both of these are in the square root, they can be combined under the same square root together. Again, if this is a square root and this is a square root, well, I suppose it'd be kind of like if I had 2x squared. That's not the best, so how about we grab an eraser? And let's get a different marker here, because you could do that. So this is kind of like this, huh? If I have two different things raised to the same exponent, well, I can combine those now, can't I? Right? This is the same thing as 5x squared. So same idea here. I combine these under the square root. Same for here, because again, our whole point was to get the same square root, and that's still over h. Now, the next step down, as I saw you guys do, is I combine the h, I bring the h, and combine that in there, and I put that here. So again, and we also combined this guy minus this guy. And there that is, right? This guy minus this guy produces that guy, and I brought the h there, so I combined my, remember this is that a over b over c thing. And a over b over c, of course, means a over b times c, right? So this is a over b times c, right there. Now, we've used the complex conjugate before, right? Well, not complex conjugate, but the conjugate. We always use the conjugate to rationalize the denominator. But this time, we're going to rationalize the numerator. And you'll see why in a second. because of course we're going to try to cross things out. So remember the rules of conjugates. You use the same thing, the same two groups of terms, except your goal is to use the same two groups of terms, but if one's a negative, the other one's a positive, or vice versa, right? Because this way, well, it's just like if you're doing, something like this, right? If you're multiplying a plus b times a minus b, you're going to have no middle term. A squared minus b squared, right? Because you have plus ab minus ab, middle terms cross out. So same idea there, right? I'm going to try to cross out middle terms. So if I multiply 4 times the square root of x times 4 times the square root of x, well, the 4's going to be multiplied, that's 16. And remember, a square root times itself just becomes that number without the square root. And similarly here, right? Negative 4 times positive 4 is going to produce a negative 16. And this thing just becomes the number without the square root. And now, of course, whatever I multiply the top by, I multiply the bottom by. And I'm going to do that here. And notice I didn't combine anything. I left this as it was, and I left this as it was, right? Okay, now on to this step. Well, I just had 16x from these two being combined. And similarly, I'm going to have negative 16 times the thing under here, which is here. And then I crossed out 16x, and then positive 16x and negative 16x. But don't forget that 16 distributes to the h. So a negative 16h is going to come down here. Leave the denominator the same. And now we pop down here, which is one of your goals when you're doing these limit things, is you got to cross out an h. Because if I plug in h approaches 0 immediately, I'm going to get this divided by 0 thing, and thus I've lost my answer. So the whole point of this was to get an h out, right? Now I got an h out, and so now I'm left with just a plain old number up top, negative 16. So now we can finally apply the limit as h approaches 0. So I plug in zeros for h's. Those guys go away. So 0 there, 0 there. And this is what you're left with. Negative 16 over x times x produces x squared. And negative 16 over, well, this is gone, so you're just left with 4 square root of x. And then plus another 4 square root of x. Well, we have the exponent raised to the same power, so you can just combine that. 4 root x plus 4 root x is 8 root x. And now that leaves us down here. So I had a 16 on top. Now this is all being multiplied. Don't let the parentheses throw you off, right? This is just x times 8 the square root of x. So 16 over 8. That's just going to produce a negative 2 up top. And then we're going to have x times the square root of x on the bottom. But we can rewrite this, right? This is the same thing as negative 2 over x times x to the half. And remember, this is just like x to the 1, that's times x to the half, and that's going to be, therefore, 2 over x to the 3 halves. And that is your final answer.